Welcome back. Today we are going to be taking a look at the new addition to the dev server, the Super Etendard. And of course this thing is a little bit late to the party. This thing would have been absolutely fantastic a little while ago. But now it's probably going to be at least pretty decent because, well, it is a little bit of an upgrade over the regular Etendard that we already have. This thing gets 250 flares, it gets 2 magic ones, it gets a better engine, and it gets more weight. It also gets a bit of a radar, you can see it on the right, but it doesn't really get any radar missiles, so it really won't need this. I would just turn it off, because all it will do is warn others that you are kind of looking at them on their RWR. And speaking about RWR, you can see it in the top right, this thing also receives that upgrade. So all in all, this thing is mostly just heavier because it's more kitted out, and this is counteracted by the better engine. However, the better engine does not mean that it's better at sustained dogfighting over the regular Etendard. It doesn't mean that it's better at accelerating. It doesn't mean that it has a higher top speed. Now, the last one is definitely true, and the acceleration is a little bit weird. It does accelerate better, but not all the time. But we will take a very quick look at that in a minute here. For now, I am just dogfighting this J29. Now, the J29 is a plane that you will only see in a full down tier. And if you have flown the regular Etendard, you know that these planes are actually pretty potent versus anything that's slower than it. Because the acceleration at higher speed is pretty damn nasty. That's what this thing actually starts becoming a little bit better than the other one. The issue is when you start fighting supersonics, because you will lose a lot of speed very quickly. And that's going to kind of leave you out of options. So I'm wondering how it's going to fare against other supersonics. I wonder how it's going to do at its own BR. But that we will see once the live server comes out and we can actually test it out. J29F dies, and now I want to take a look at the acceleration and the differences. I wanted to show it this way because we are going to be flying right next to each other. We are both running minimum fuel, we are both running 2 missiles, so we are having an identical loadout. At 33 seconds we both take off. Now let's see what happens when we reach 200 kilometers an hour. We are at 200, mackerel is at 135 at 46 seconds. Now 47 seconds, let's go with 47. Let's see when mackerel reaches 200 at 51 seconds. So we are looking at basically a 5-second deficit that he needs to make up. And this is where it kind of gets interesting. So let's see what happens once we reach 400. 399, almost the same thing. We are at 58.8 seconds. Mackerel is now 80 kilometers an hour slower than us, but this will change relatively quickly. We reach 500. Mackerel will be 430, so he's gaining. He's now only 70 kilometers an hour down. We reach 600. He is now 60 kilometers down. 700. 38 kilometers down. As you can tell, I shoot off the runway. Or I shot off the runway. Probably because his engine spooled up quicker. Now he is only about 20 kilometers an hour slower than me. So he is clawing it back. So maybe, yes, his engine is a little bit slow to spool up, and that's why he has a deficit. But once the engines are going, you will actually see that the Super Etendard accelerates a little bit worse. Okay, so let's keep going. Soon here we will reach 900 kilometers an hour. 12 kilometers difference. The funny thing is, 12. I think you see it. He's dropping again. So once you reach above 850-ish, the Super Etendard will actually start accelerating better again, because it does have more thrust. It's a little bit lighter, a little bit heavier, sorry. And now the Super Etendard will start pulling away again, because the top speed is also just a lot higher. This thing will do about 1200, not quite, but on some maps you will do 1208, some maps you will do 1198. This one will sit at about 1107, so you are looking at a 100 kilometers an hour deficit. Now another thing that's kind of funny is this. We're going into a raid fight. Notice a thing. Not quite yet, but at low speed, you'll see it in a second. But as of right now, when I start swapping between these two planes, you can tell that the speeds are actually almost interchangeable. She's 708, 703. Let's go a little bit further. 49, 48. And that's kind of funny to me because the Super Attendard is actually heavier and it does have more thrust at higher speeds. And you can tell that for now it's losing less speed, it's probably pulling less AOA, and it looks like I am going to be winning this fight. It looked like that for a very brief moment. However, at lower speed this thing accelerates better and it's lighter, so now we are kind of settled in. I am losing more than him again. As you can tell. He's sitting at 515, I'm sitting about 490. And I will lose the raid fight. Now this looks maybe kind of weird to you. But it's lighter, it has more engine power at low speed. Or it has more acceleration at low speed. So it's much better at sitting at this low kind of speed. Other than that, these two planes feel extremely similar. This thing will be a little bit better for RRB when it does get up tiered. Because it will be at a higher BR than the normal Etendard. But keep in mind, these two planes feel quite similar. This thing is slightly heavier. You will notice it in the turn. You will notice it in the acceleration at low speed. And you will notice it in basically everything that's about the handling. And then we level out. And you can tell now, this time we don't have the takeoff run to interrupt us. Macro's going 10 kilometers an hour quicker than us. Let's see what happens once he reaches 700. 706. 782. He's very clearly gaining. He's gaining. And at one point, I start to claw it back again, as you can tell. 1000, and only 6 kilometers an hour difference. And now I'm out accelerating him again. It's an interesting dynamic. These two planes are gonna... If you didn't test these two things next to each other, you probably wouldn't feel the difference unless you are a very avid Etendard spammer. If you know these planes by heart, you know exactly how they perform. The Super Etendard does rate a little bit worse. It has worse acceleration at low speed and it's slightly less maneuverable. But as a trade-off, you get a higher top speed, you get more acceleration at high speed, and of course you get the magic 2s and flares, which is the main reason this thing is getting up tiered. Now of course, you are not only going to be playing this thing in RRB. This thing is also going to have some ground ornaments, and we have some GBU 12s, which means that you have pave waves, and you can carry 4 of them. You can also carry some snap rocket pulse on the outer pylons, but I would basically always opt to carry the magic ones. Why? Because snaps aren't that insane, and at 10.0 you're probably not going to get that close to the enemy anyway. You're probably better off dropping 4 pave waves from orbit and then just going RTB. The issue is that the BR will probably be cemented at 10.0 or maybe even higher because of these weapon systems. But that's just the way the game goes nowadays, which is unfortunate for us RLB players. If you are a ground player, you probably want this thing to not bomb you from orbit, so I completely understand it. And then we look at the placement, which is a little bit unlucky because I thought we are going to get a good rank 6 now that we can actually use to grind. Unfortunately for us, it's at rank 7, which means that you still have to go through this absolute... This is a painful one to get through. All of these planes are kind of mid. The Etendard used to be probably the best pick, but you don't have flares at 9.0. If you get lucky, you don't get any all-aspect missile up tiers, but you might still run into them. And then you have the F-84F, which is just bad. The F-100D is not good at all. The Vautours are really not it. And the Mystere and the Super Mystere are also just not it. So rank 6 is still an absolute bitch to get through if you don't have the Mirage F1 or the Milan. I still think that the Milan is a bad fighter, but if you want to get some consistent RP, you can definitely do it with it. But I'm just kind of upset that the Super Etendard is in rank 7. But hey, what can you do about it? At least this gives you the option to fly something that is a little bit more maneuverable and a little bit less limited than something like the Mirage 3E. Because with the Mirage 3E, you can't really start dogfighting people. You are kind of just forced to run away and play it like a boom and zoomer because you are just a massive delta wing. Now, I'm not going to pretend like the Super Etendard has good energy retention. It doesn't in the slightest, but it does have 2 of the 3 missiles that this thing has. That's the same guns, it has way more flares, and it's just a little bit more nimble and it feels more like a plane. So at least you now have some diversity here, which I think is good. It's at least a better pick than the Jaguar when it comes to something like Araby, and it's going to be at a lower BR as well. Sure, the Jaguar is a little bit faster, but that's about where it all ends.